Hey guys, welcome to day 3, 2 and 3 variable system of equations practice. Shout out to my one YouTube channel subscriber, who I don't know who it is because I can't figure out how to see who the subscribers are, so I think it's private. I'm hoping that by tomorrow I will have at least 2 subscribers on my YouTube channel. Okay guys, I also decided to do a new thing of doing a math meme of the day. So here's our math meme. Today we're going to learn about matrix. Expectation, reality. I'm sorry that this is your reality when you thought it was going to be real cool. But matrices are actually really cool and they're really useful in real life. So we're going to, in this unit, go into some of those cool uses of it. But first we have to get comfortable with just like solving systems, using a matrix on our calculator to solve a system for us rather than by hand. So I've got a quick warm up to have some practice. So what I want you to do is pause the video and I want you to try these 2 problems on your own. Notice the first one, the 2 variable is by hand and the 3 variable is using your calculator. Okay, if you need to, feel free to pull out your notes in your notebook from the other day. Where you guys in your notebook would have written out the calculator directions step by step, right? So pause the video and try this one out without me helping you guys. Okay, so if you have come back to the video, that means you tried it on your own. So your 2 variable system of equations by hand, I would probably go for elimination with this one. So I would do it times -2. I'm trying to get the y's to match up. So negative 10x minus 4y equals negative 22 plus 10x plus 4y equals 22. Lo and behold, I get 0 plus 0 equals 0. So if I get 0 equals 0, remember this means that it's a true statement. So your answer would be infinite solutions. Remember that I think yesterday we saw one where you got like 0 equals a number. Remember that means no solution. And what that means graphically is that your 2 lines are parallel, so they never intersect, right? And if you had done it in slope-intercept form, you would have found the slopes are the same. Infinite solutions, we do have to be a little bit more specific with how we write it. So infinite solutions, I'm going to show you guys how to write it over here on the side. So remember, we want to have an ordered pair like x comma y equals, and we want to write something where if I give you an x, you can automatically figure out the y. Remember, infinite solutions just means the 2 lines are identical, they overlap every point. So that means we have to use the equation of the line somehow. I'm going to use the top equation, 5x plus 2y equals 11, because both of those equations represent the same line. I'm going to get it into slope-intercept form. So 2y equals negative 5x plus 11 divided by 2. I'm going to divide each of them by 2. Y equals negative 5 over 2x plus 11 over 2. So the goal with writing like a generic solution is if I pick an x, how would I find my y? Generally, I take my x, I plug it into the equation, and I find my output, which means if I use this as my y, I'm going to put that over here and say, okay, if x is x, y is negative 5 over 2 times x plus 11 over 2. And that represents your generic solution. So if I had, for instance, wanted examples, like some examples using that, if x is 1, y would be 5 over 2 times 1, which is 5 over 2, plus 11 over 2. That would simplify to 1, comma, 6 over 2, which is the same as 1, comma, 3. So that would generate infinite solutions, right? You could plug in whatever x you want. X could be 1, 2, 3, -1, -2, etc., etc. So that's how you want to write out your infinite solution as an ordered pair. Solving the system with a calculator for number 2. Remember, you want to have your graphing calculator out, and the way we go is we do second matrix on the far left side, and I want to arrow over to edit. Okay, and I want to input, it looks like my matrix has 1, 2, 3 rows, and we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. I'm going to first write it out with just the numbers, right? Remember, we take just the coefficients. If I don't have a coefficient, you can put a 1. Right? So remember, we're just taking those coefficients. So for instance, 1, 1, 1, and the numbers after the equal sign 4. So my first row is going to be 1, 1, 1, 4. And remember, that line is just to kind of separate coefficients from the other side. Think of it kind of like your equal sign is separating those numbers from each other. Okay, so those are my numbers, right? I've got, we said 1, 2, 3 rows. And if I go vertical, remember, kind of like Greek buildings, 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. Okay, so I'm going to put that in my calculator. I'm going to type that in. So 3 rows, 4 columns. It looks like it's the right size. I want 1, 1, 1. And I'm going to pause it and I'm going to put all the rest in my calculator. Okay, so I finished inputting my numbers into my calculator. Remember, you can use the arrow to kind of see all of them. You can't see all of the numbers at once. I'm going to do second mode to quit. And now I need to have the matrix solved. So the way we do that is we go back to second matrix. And instead of editing, we're going to go to math. And that has all the options for what we can do. I'm going to scroll down. And I want reduced row echelon form. Now what reduced row echelon form means is it will give us a form where it has solved for x, y, and z. And I want to tell them which matrix I want to be simplified. So second matrix, and I want to pick A, because I believe I put it in A, right? If you need a double check, you can go back and double check. I'm going to click edit. Yes, A looks like the right matrix. So I'm going to say enter. So what this reduced row echelon form means is the first row is saying 1x plus no y's plus no z's equals 2. And that means x equals 2. Second row is saying 0x plus 1y plus no z equals -1. That means that y is equal to -1. The last one is saying no x plus no y plus 1z equals 3. So that's saying z equals 3. So let's see, 2, -1, and 3. So I'm going to write it out like that. So 2, -1, and 3. And so what that is, when we say reduced row echelon form, it's just the look of having the ones, right? And that's giving you your x, your y, and your z. So we know x equals 2, y equals -1, z equals 3. Remember, we would want to write it like the ordered pair, x, y, z, 2, -1, 3. And the reduced row just means it has those ones, the rest of the numbers are 0, and it goes in that nice pattern. And, you know, you can think about it like you've reduced the rows. Instead of having all numbers, right, numbers for x, y, and z, you just have x, y, and z solved for. So what we're going to do is we're going to practice solving some word problems for the rest of the notes. What we can also do is, if you want practice for calculator skills, remember we are only doing the 3 variable with the calculator on an assessment. You are expected to do a 2 variable by hand. However, for all of the problems we're going to do for practice, if you want extra calculator practice, try the word problems with your calculator. Remember, you will be responsible to do all 2 variable by hand and 3 variable with a calculator. But if you want extra practice, go ahead and use your calculator as a tool to try. So we're going to do some word problem practice. Feel free to pause the video and get down all your important information every time we start a word problem. And I'm going to read through it with you as well. Remember, the key steps for word problems are step 1, you define your variables. Step 2, we write our equations. And step 3, we solve. Okay? So the first one says Adele has $25,000. She invests her money in 3 different bonds, bond A, bond B, and bond C. And she invests twice as much money in bond A compared to bond B. I'm just going to highlight every single thing that seems kind of important. Put different colors. She makes 5% in simple interest from bond A, 7% simple interest from bond B, and 3% from bond C. And then there's another thing. Let's see, I have not used purple. After 1 year, she has made $3,110. How much money did Adele have in each bond? And the really nice thing is that last sentence, they're telling us what our variables are. So I'm going to call A my money in bond A, B my money in bond B, and C my money in bond C. Right? Pretty self-explanatory for that one. And now we're going to work on trying to figure out what A, B, and C are. Notice if we have 3 variables, we should also have 3 equations when we write out our equations. And that means that this one is going to be a calculator active question, and I can solve it with a matrix. So let's see. She has $25,000, right? That means she takes all of her money and splits it up into those 3 bonds. So probably the easiest one is that when you put all the money together, it should total $25,000. I'm going to highlight that as the purple information, just so you guys can see that. And I'm going to maybe make this purple. And maybe that one shouldn't be purple anymore. So that's our purple information. Okay. The next clue, I'm going to look at the green clue. So the green clue says that she takes twice as much money and puts it in A compared to B. So think about it like if I am twice as tall as someone else, if that's Miss G, and that's someone who's like really, really, really short, let's call them Tom. So if I'm twice as tall as Tom, right, I'm going to use G and T for Miss Goldenberg and Tom. The question is, do you do 2G equals T, or that Miss Goldenberg equals 2 times Tom? Now, a lot of people think it's the first one. And the reason why is because if you say I'm twice as tall, you typically associate the 2 with me, because I'm twice as tall as someone else. However, if you think about like how tall someone is, let's say that Tom is 2 feet tall. And I'm 4 feet tall, I guess. If he's 2 feet tall, the way you'd find my height is you would take his height and double it. So it's actually the smaller one doubled to get the bigger one. And for some reason, a lot of people, it's hard to do it in their heads. I find that writing it out helps. So the second one, she puts twice as much money in A compared to B. A is going to be equal to 2 times bond B. So the amount of money she puts in bond B doubles, makes the amount of money she puts in bond A. In this one, we kind of don't have it written in the normal way. So I might move it, the 2B over to make it look like a regular equation, like A minus 2B. I'm going to put plus no C equals nothing, just to have it looking like a regular equation. Okay. And then we need our third one. So it says she makes 5% in simple interest from bond A, 7% from bond B, and 3% from bond C. What they mean by simple interest is, think about like if I have $100 and I make 5% simple interest, that means in 1 year I've made $5. If you take 5% of $100, that's how much money you would make. So what they're telling us in this is how much simple interest you get from each of them. And then it says that after 1 year, here's the important part, she has made that much money in interest. So that's telling you how much money she made, not how much money total she has, which means what we could do is we could say, okay, if there's 5% from bond A, I'm going to write that as decimal, 0.05 times amount of money in A, plus 0.07 times amount of money from B. Okay, and then our bond C is going to be a 3%. So I'm going to do plus 0.03 times bond C. And we're going to say that all those together, added together, equals 1,310. So that's connecting to my pink clue, this equation. Okay, so once again, what that represents is like 0.05 times A tells you how much interest she has earned from bond A. And if she had put $100 in bond A, she would make $5, like my example at the top of the screen. And so what this is saying is you're adding all your interest. So that's like interest earned for all 3 of those. and then you add it together and you get a total of 1,310. In the next video, I'm going to finish this problem